All right, everybody. This is Chaz and Chris. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Chris. This is Chaz.
The Paint Nerds here.
You've stumbled upon the Paint Nerds, probably by accident, maybe not.
Yeah, and today we're going to talk about a really cool method for painting object source lighting. You want to explain what that is?
So, object source lighting is basically your miniature or what have you has a light source that it's holding, and you're applying the effect of the light onto the miniature. So a torch would give kind of a yellow effect,
orange.
Yellowish orange effect. A science fiction laser sword might have a blue, green, or red depending on the character's alignment.
Orange, purple.
Yeah.
Laser blast. Laser blasts will, again, whatever color they choose. So object source lighting is a unique thing, and it's easy to screw up, and it's also very easy to produce once you get a couple little tricks. And my trick for object source lighting is I look at what color I'm actually going to have to need, which is all right here. Okay, this little torch that doesn't even really look like a torch. It looks like he's holding a stick on fire. Or she. Is it a she?
It is a she.
Okay, she's holding a stick on fire, essentially. A drow torch stick on fire. Come on, focus. Focus, camera, focus!
And I have zero experience with this technique, so Chaz is going to be taking the reins on it. And I'm going to be asking questions and learning how to do it right along with you guys.
So, once you get an idea of where all your colors are at, you got to look at what color light would be actually emitted. This is actually a very small torch and wouldn't really illuminate a whole lot of space. So it kind of gives us the benefit that we're going to stop the light right about the elbow. And the top of the hands will be covered. It will have some illumination, and it'll probably just be splash illumination. We'll probably get a little illumination, kind of like light illumination inside the hair. Yes. Thank God there was nothing wet on that, because that would have been bad.
Ruined your shirt.
Not like I haven't already. So that's where we're going to start. This is like, it would be different if, she were swinging around something like this that had a whole lot of, light emitting potential.
See last week's show for that tutorial.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this, which is Uriel yellow. It's a really, really bright yellow. It's actually what I like to call a destructively bright yellow, because it's that yellow that if you put too much on, it will literally hurt your eyes.
It's not quite 90s Wolverine, but it's close.
Yeah.
It's toxic yellow.
So we take a little bit of that, and you can water it down, or you can thin it out with whatever thinning medium you use. I'm going to use my homemade Lawman medium, so that way I can maintain some color, but it also will thin out the paint relatively easy. And I'm going to go with 2. I really want to over wet the paint, but still want to get color. So this is really, really wet. It's really, really thin, and the pigment isn't rich and defining.
It's almost like a shade.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So then what I do is I figure out where I need it, and I just gently kind of lay it on the model, and try to maintain some consistency on where the lighting is. And then on the hair, we're just going to give it a little smattering of yellow. Just enough to let you know it's there. Okay. It's not super... this type of torch wouldn't generate enough light to be super obvious anywhere. So that is literally your first step right there. Is you got the yellow on the arm, you got a little bit of yellow on the hands of the light coming down, and that's genuinely it for the yellow for such a small model. if you feel like you need to add a little more color, what you do is you let this dry, and then you add another layer of yellow. Okay. And you want to, the reason I make it thin is you want to try to see some of the color that's actually underneath it. You don't want to hide the color of, the armor or the skin or anything like that. You want to just add that yellow on there as if it's actually being illuminated, which is kind of the point of object source lighting. So, questions while we let this dry?
So while I did not have the skills perfected, I did study. Could you make it appear brighter by counter shading other areas?
Yes.
Okay.
It's going to take you a little longer because you're actually adding paint around, you're actually deadening paint or brightening paint around that area to make it look like the only time you want to use that technique is when the character is holding like an incandescent light.
Okay.
Something incandescent will give you that because incandescent light actually washes out color. So like a lot of the times the reason people use ring lights in like really bright white or bright blue LED ring lights when they're doing like makeup tutorials or painting, like we should be using it for painting. Is because it shows you the white and blue light tend to show you the real color. Okay, so what we're getting here is we're getting the washout color from these kind of yellowy orange incandescent bulbs.
Okay.
So you're actually seeing a flatter color. If we were to like shine a light, like I think my phone will be able to prove this point a lot better than I'm verbalizing. But notice a white blue light changes the color. See how you can see the browns, you can see the bright white hair. You're seeing the truer color with that light. And my light isn't very close to the model at all. Like it's literally even with the camera, just for
so maybe about 6 inches above.
Right. But you can see where the object source lighting right in here is already starting to change the way the armor is colored. If you thin out your paints and you do it strategically, you're going to get more out of using thinned down wet paints than you are counter shading. Counter shading is good when there's an incandescent source.
Okay.
Like those steampunk ones where they got an incandescent light in a cage. That would be perfect.
Okay.
That would be a great way to go. It's also good if your light source is super bright and close to the object. Like they're walking under, like those sci-fi movies when they're walking down a hallway on a ship and they got those bright lights over the top of them. That's perfect because then you actually get more control over where the light's dispersing inside, the model's area. Like when I was shining the light over here, how you saw it was really, really bright, but you could still see some of the contouring in the hair. All you would have to do is highlight the hair in something that's either whiter than this or something slightly darker, or a slightly or a light tint in little strategic areas. That way, when you put the light over it, what would happen is you would see the white of the hair from the actual light, and then you would also see the breakup of the contour with whatever color you were using.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next step is visually inspecting the element. Always inspect where your light source is. Notice it's really, really dull right here, but it's got the edges. I've literally got bands of color right in here. On the bottom, I got a band of color. So that band of color needs to be fixed. So what we're going to do is I'm going to charge up my brush with a little bit more, and I'm literally going to try to stay where the color isn't. Literally just adding on a little bit more, just like that. That little dollop of yellow is going to hold on to a little more light, and it's going to look more like it's a small, low light torch than it is anything else. And as it dries, it's going to fade a little bit. Notice I got it back on the hand. So now the hand looks like it's got light washing down on it. And then we're going to add a little bit of yellow into the one little dot. into the hair. That little dot is going to dry flat, and it's going to be that pinpoint of light that is actively being directed at the hair. And then we let that dry, inspect again, and then we're probably going to be ready for the next color. This video is going to go very, very fast with such a small model.
All right.
Next question.
Trying to think. How would you... So are we essentially using a similar paint scheme, being as this is a torchlight, as the flames that we did last time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the reason we're using that, and I'm going to be using the same orange I used, that Troll Slayer orange. Yeah. I'm going to be using the same orange, but that orange is going to be even thinner. And it's just going to be kind of on the edges a little bit. I'm just going to highlight the yellow edges.
All right.
And that's just to kind of give the fact that, you know, flames, when we see them, even though it's emitting light, you can see where the yellow flames would be brighter on human skin. The orange is going to be a little dimmer on human skin. So we're actually going to thin this out a little bit just to give it that little hint of dull. See, playing with light sources is interesting because the same theories that we use on object source lighting are the same theories we use in tone changes for like blending skin tones in zenithal.
Okay.
So if you watch people doing those really big zenithal like busts, you'll see that they change tones and temperatures in the cheeks and the armor itself. And then they do blending to kind of make it all fit. So when you look at it, you've still got that light source, but at the same time, your eye gets those subtle changes, you know, from the top of the head down.
Okay.
Object source lighting does the same thing with that. So it's all this is, and object source lighting is you have to know the intensity.
Right.
You have to know the intensity of the light source. This would be a significantly small, intense light. So it'd be nearly insignificant. I mean, it's like having one of those really stupid pen flashlights that you when you're like a foot away from something, it's kind of lights it up.
Right.
But at the same time, it's just enough light to see by and give you an idea of breaks in an area. Versus, say, the laser swords you were talking about, which can produce an intense amount of light. Okay, you turn that thing on, you've lit up a whole room.
Yeah.
Okay, versus a halogen, one of those big halogen, globe lights, where you put that in in the ceiling of this room, and everybody's getting a sunburn.
Right.
That's intense light. So the intensity of the light is directly proportional to how much thinning and how many layers you do of your light source painting.
Okay.
So if it's a super intense, light, but it diffuses quickly, diffusion is also going to play a part, because light isn't just one beam going straight across with this infinite birth of light.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. Light goes on forever until it hits an object, but that cone of light that you're seeing actually won't diffuse very far. And anything you see, when you take a laser pointer and you blow it through and you point it at a smoke machine's fog, you notice the light hits the fog. It still it takes a little bit, but it still goes through. But you see a little tiny, that's called diffusion. Okay, so you would know if you were doing object source lighting in that, you would know that the beam has to be really, 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 really strong. Okay, so that you have to really define that beam of light.
Right.
But you can kind of diffuse the light around that light going through the fog simply because it's actual diffused light.
Okay.
So the same concept here is we have a very small point of light. Now, it's not going to travel very far because it is a small point of light. So we went up to the elbow because, she kind of has it up at an angle. So I'm allowing for the light to travel a little bit on the hair, and a little bit here on the arm, but I'm not letting it travel all the way up to maintain that it's a small source of light.
Okay.
It's not like a full-fledged, so it's not like Indiana Jones grabbing a piece of a skeleton, wrapping some fabric around it and lighting it up, and it's like, oh, I can see everything. because torches don't work like that either.
No, they don't.
So we got the top of the hand. Everything underneath is firmly untouched in that model because everything on the light source is going down. So now we're going to do the orange. And the orange is going to be a smaller amount of orange, significantly smaller. And we're going to be using a lot more liquid to thin it out. So I've got my orange here. And again, my matte medium. And we're going to thin the heck out of it with 3 drops.
Okay.
Now, the reason I use my a thinned out matte medium for thinning out my paints is I still want the color to travel. Okay, I want it to travel and travel well. What I don't want it to do is I don't want it to overpower. So if you see in here, like this orange, it's I mean, you're not really seeing it, but this orange right here is really, really thin. Like that's insane pumpkin thin.
Yeah.
And that's not how you would normally. Yes, Gladys. But so yeah, we take a little bit of that thin orange paint and we go around. See how it got really, really, that band right there, the pigment kind of went straight down. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but you can see right around here there's a band of pigment. So what we're going to do is inside the middle of that, we're going to add a little bit of that orange. And you're about to see your little effect that you love.
That was going to be the next question.
And what was the next question?
Actually, if you could do like wet blending to kind of have everything kind of diffuse more naturally.
You could.
Let water do the work for you.
But if you notice, voila, you got that orange in the middle, you got a little bit on the hair, and you can even kind of wipe away with the finger to get away any excess so it's not overpowering the hair. And yes, you could, in theory, do wet blending. Absolutely. The reason I don't is having those defined colors sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
See how it has more of a natural
Yeah.
color lines, and even in the hair, got that natural little speck of light. And this is literally just going to dry like this. I mean, we're trapping, and it's like getting a tattoo.
Okay.
Do you have any?
I do not.
Okay.
My wife does.
But tattoos. Mm-hmm. Okay, notice I have these really sharp, broad black lines,
mm-hmm.
right? But we got all this really cool, bright color in it.
Right.
Okay. The concept here is the black creates a barrier. Okay, encapsulating the color. That's what I did here is I used the yellow, let it dry. It created that natural ring because that's all the space it had.
Right.
Once that ring is made, you can add orange into that, and the orange will stay more towards the center than it will towards the edges. The edges are going to get a little bit of that orange, and that's fine. Mm. But this is object source lighting in the most basic sense right here. Is you've got it all the light there. You can see the original skin and armor tones. You can see, if I can get this thing to focus. I don't know why it's not focusing like it used to. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't.
It's focusing on everything but.
Right.
There it is. Oh, wait.
I mean, I think that's good enough for government work. But we have the orange, we have the yellow in the hair. We have all the stuff that makes it unique. That is just really, really weird.
We'll take pictures of everything and
yeah, it'll be on
it's popping
Facebook
in as you
page.
can see as you watch. It's popping in for like a second.
But you can see the armor underneath. You can see that orange ring. You can see where the light's actually hitting the object. And that is very rudimentary. There's a couple other things I could do. I could add a little extra yellow and kind of layer it up to get all those things to kind of make a ring effect. Mm-hmm. So you see those colors kind of melting into each other.
Nice.
And that's for people who have absolutely all the time in the world to do that. I mean,
Don't
genuinely.
try it.
Oh, no, dude, seriously, try it.
Try it, but don't beat yourself up if you can.
Oh, never beat yourself up.
This is why Chaz is taking the reins on this one.
Yeah. Well, that's because I've actually done more OSL than you.
Yeah.
Like literally. And OSL's, like I said, it's not a perfect science, but you can easily get that lighting effect without having to worry about, oh, did I do this or did I do that? And it really doesn't matter. In the long run, it just doesn't matter. As long as you have the light. OSL is great because if you thin down the paints and you get the paint in the right spots, it really doesn't matter because you can have a full-on big torch and have that OSL, and that OSL is just going to look like, oh, well, you got this really big torch, it's just not giving off a whole lot of light.
Yeah.
Or you could do it spot on perfect. It's like, wow, that little tiny torch is putting out all sorts of light. Now, once this is dry, I'm going to show you why I did what I did and why we thinned it out. Because I'm going to go straight from the pot, which is huge no-no for OSL. And I'm going to do a quick little paint job in there. Like we're highlighting things. And so you add all that yellow in there, it doesn't look as clean if you just go straight from the pot. You thin it out and you add layers. Now this actually worked out a little better than I thought it would. Mostly because my painting instincts took over. And it was like, yes, we can do this. We just have to do quick, small strokes, and we're good.
So a less is more approach.
Yeah. And that's like with all painting when you're doing layers, is less is always going to be more.
Yeah.
That's just good rule of thumb, is you don't have to go broad unless it's going to be the one color all over everything.
Okay.
You know, less is always more in layering. It is. Even with this, I mean, yeah, that, like I said, it turned out better than I thought it would. But like I said, again, my painting instincts took over, and my unwant to be sloppy kind of made my hands go, nope, we're going to laser etch this one real quick. And I probably won't be able to do this again if I tried.
Right.
But that's object source lighting in a pretty general nutshell. As this channel progresses, you're going to see more crazy stuff, you know, bigger models. You're going to see, you know, more lighting, more everything else. So any questions further?
What size brush have you been using for this?
I have been using a small layer brush from Citadel.
Okay.
Like literally the small layer brush. It's got a really fine point. Pull my makeup wife. So, and the reason I was using it is you always use, when you do OSL, you always want to use a brush that you're going to be able to control your paint with.
Right.
For the size of, respective to the size of the model.
Okay. All right. That's all I honestly had.
All right, well, this episode, once again, brought to you by the Save Point. If you're ever in the Louisiana area and you want to see where it's all, you know, all recorded.
See where the magic happens.
Yeah. Feel free to you know, jump on their Facebook page or jump on their Discord and give them a shout out.
As always, thank you to our wonderful wives for putting up with our shenanigans.
One of whom is actually in the shop.
Yes.
My wife, Stephanie.
Hi.
Hey, do I or do I not do shenanigans?
Constantly.
Hey, thank you, baby, for putting up with me. I appreciate it.
We also have our executive producer. He's actually awake this time.
Hey, Bubba. Hey.
Owen, you want to turn around? No? Being shy?
Face. He's like, I have no clue what you're doing. And also, one of the... I do all this really cool stuff, and we can.
There we go.
There we go. There, that was a. Once again, a big shout out to
Wilson from
Justin
Home
and Jennifer
Improvement.
Haskell from Troll Tooth Productions.
Yep.
Always willing to lend a hand, throw our name out. They've been super helpful in this whole thing, and I don't think Chris and I can thank them enough for just the sheer amount of support that they're willing to throw to this channel.
Absolutely.
Like I said, at Save Point, check them out. They're the reason we have internet.
Yep. At the Save Point on Facebook. You can find me at 504 Minis on Facebook.
And I don't have a Facebook.
You should fix that.
No, I just started getting into TikTok. So
Oh, the TikTok.
hey, they're funny. Some of them are great.
Maybe we should do a little TikTok channel and be like,
I have no clue how we're gonna pull that off.
I'll figure it out.
How to paint a mini in 60 seconds. First, grab your spray paint. No, that wouldn't work because it takes like 5 minutes for that stuff to dry.
We'll figure something out. We'll figure out a goofy how not to paint on TikTok.
How not to paint on TikTok. You're gonna have to run that one because I have enough with.
I've got enough old minis that need a new paint job that we got this covered.
But anyway, thanks for all your support. Thank you
Remember
for all
to
the views.
Hit
Remember
the
to
like button wherever that is.
It's probably gonna be down here.
The ring the bell, subscribe.
All those things all the popular
hit all the
YouTubers do.
buttons. Hit
Just
all the
disco dance
buttons.
until you point to it. I mean, it works.
Yep, we're gonna find it.
Staying alive, ha, 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 ha.
And-
painting live, painting live.
We have to get it all out because we stayed on topic for a solid 20 minutes.
We did actually.
We did really good this time.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for watching.